At the beginning of the 19th century, in a country house in Burgundy, a man watches for hours as light enters through a window and strikes a plate resting on a table. He is not trying to paint or draw, but to obtain an image that forms by itself, without the intervention of the human hand. It is from attempts like this that photography takes shape. Photography does not come into being all at once. It is not born as we know it today. It emerges through attempts, errors, and isolated intuitions. And above all, it is born to solve a very simple problem: how to catch light. In 1826, Joseph Nicephore Niepce creates what is now considered the first permanent photograph in history: View from the Window at Le Gras. The image depicts a courtyard, some buildings, and indistinct sky. There is nothing spectacular, and that is precisely the point. Niepce uses a process called heliography, a plate coated with bitumen that reacts to light. The exposure lasts hours, perhaps an entire day. For the first time, light is not drawn by hand. It imprints itself. At this moment, photography is not yet meant to tell a story, but to prove that something can happen. Here, photography is not yet art, nor document. It is a successful experiment, but it is enough to open an irreversible path. At first, however, photographing people was almost impossible. Exposure times were so long that anyone who moved disappeared. In 1838, Louis Daguerre photographs the Boulevard du Temple in Paris. The street is crowded, but in the photograph it appears empty. Only one figure remains visible: a man standing still while having his shoes shined. He was not the intended subject, yet he is the first human being ever photographed. In this image, what matters is not being there, but managing not to disappear. From the very beginning, photography holds on to what manages to remain. Shortly afterward, someone decides to turn the camera toward himself. It is Robert Cornelius, a pioneer of American photography. He prepares the equipment, positions himself in front of the lens, and remains still for over a minute. He does not smile. He does not truly pose. He simply endures. What he obtains is the first photographic self-portrait in history. Today we would call it a selfie, but here there is no narcissism. For the first time, the one who looks and the one who is looked at coincide in the same gesture. For decades, however, photography will continue to portray the world without color. And not because the world is black and white, but because the technology allows nothing else. In 1861, James Clerk Maxwell demonstrates that color can be photographed, not with a special film, but with a scientific principle: 3 separate images, each filtered through a primary color, superimposed. The subject is simple: a Scottish ribbon. The result is not perfect, but it is clear. From this moment on, the image is no longer just form, but more complex visual information. This is the theoretical basis of all modern color photography. For nearly a century, photography remains tied to chemistry and physical media. Then, in 1957, a silent but decisive shift occurs. Russell Kirsch digitizes the image of his son's face. The resolution is extremely low, 176 by 106 pixels. Today it seems rudimentary, but it is the first time a photograph is translated into a sequence of data. It is no longer just light and materials. From here comes everything that now flows across screens. We conclude with a very different first time. In 2019, the first image of a black hole is published, obtained by the Event Horizon Telescope. It is not a traditional photograph, but the result of years of observations and data combined from radio telescopes around the world. What we see is not the black hole itself, but the shadow it produces by bending the surrounding light. At this point, photography no longer records what it sees, but reconstructs what would otherwise remain invisible. It is the extreme point of photography, no longer what the eye sees, but what physics allows to be reconstructed. These images are not important because they are the first. They are important because they open possibility. Every time photography has crossed a limit, it has not only changed technique, it has changed our way of understanding reality. And perhaps it is worth asking, Are we still using images to understand the world, or only to consume it faster?